There's no place I'd rather be.
We are moving right along, and we have the next item. We see President Pass, President Slash, Pass student give the item, so we invite the giver of those items or that item to come forward now to make that presentation. Put your hands together as they come. Standing. As they're coming, the president did say about our student achievement, especially in the championship sports. They've always come in the first five, boys and girls, the last couple of weeks. And it's not just that, when you look at the academic performance, we're also in the top of that. So our school continues to chip away at excellence in meaningful ways. And I'm sure our sister Sandra had a lot of people. You're going to be talking faster. And start off fast enough. You know it's coming. Come on, ahead, friend.
First, put the files in the garbage bin. Oh, what you said?
girl. She is no wonder. She must be a DJ. But, you know, they were saying deaf is a hell of a thing. You know the adage, deaf is gay. It is not lad, it's lawyer. You know that, Minister? Deaf ears give lawyer too. I don't know where lawyer came in here. Is deaf ears give lawyer trouble? You know? But because our minister knows all about lawyers, I want to say nothing about lawyers tonight, except this one. A girl and a mother walked in the cemetery, and the child was reading the epitaphs on the tombstone, when one said, "Here lies John Brown, a gentleman and a lawyer." The grandmother said, "Fancy that? Them start to bury two people in one grave." Schoolmates, eminent lawyers in this country, and I've listened to chief of lawyers in this nation who can't say anything like that. And sadly, not both our daughters have entered the legal profession, so they say I'm in trouble and they have to say anything because they were feeding me one name. So I have to be nice to lawyers though. But we've said nothing about lawyers. The Minister of Education is not a practicing lawyer now. He has given all of that up. He didn't want to make money anymore. He wanted to serve the nation. And so we're going to invite our brother, no, our sister Carl Price to come forward now to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, honored guests, our esteemed principal, fellow Jagoites, friends all. It is indeed my privilege and honor this evening to introduce our main speaker, the Honorable Reverend Ronald Thwaite was educated at St. George's College. He was awarded the Jamaica Scholarship to Cornell University and later the Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford University. He's an attorney, a journalist, a farmer, and a minister of religion, in that order. He was elected Member of Parliament for Central Kingston in 1997 and was appointed Minister of Education in January 2012. He's married with 7 children. Please put your hands together and join me in welcoming Honorable Reverend
friendly setup, I apologize, and I'm grateful for the merciful invitation. Madam Principal, my colleague, Member of Parliament, Dennis Daly, still here. Yes, Dr. Winston Gordon of the Jamaica Teaching Council, Chairman and past Chairman of the St. Jago Board, and the hierarchy, past, present, and to come of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mr. Townsend, and the esteemed members of the St. Jago Alumni Association, and friends all. I begin by offering apologies for the outcome of the football match. You can imagine my penitence last year when St. George's beat Kingston College 5-0. But may I redeem myself by agreeing that the St. Jago track and field team really is exemplary at boys and girls champs every year and is in stark and resplendent contrast to St. George's College, who last won championships in 1990. To say, and to agree that there are tremendous benefits from going to a co-educational school. Father Jackson has explained his extreme fortune in being able to find a wife in his class. I, by contrast, had to scale the walls of the Convent of Mercy at home. In fact, it's been a very hard life in those areas. The path of true love never runs smooth, you know. Many of you may have heard me tell this tale before. When I came back from my first university experience abroad, I thought I was an accomplished journalist of some sort, and I secured against great odds a job for £260 a year at the Gleaner. And for those of you who are as long in the truth as I am, you may remember a doughty Bajan editor called Theodore Seeley. And Mr. Seeley was not a man who would take no for an answer. He ruled with an imperiousness that matched Bishop Gibson and exceeded the Pope. And so Mr. Seeley sent me as a first favored assignment to the airport. And he told me to go and watch for the arrivals and departures of famous people, because in those days there was no other social media or anything like that. But after 3 days, he summoned me to Harbour Street at the time, and I worried that my tenure was about to end for something I didn't know what I had done. And he looked at me gravely and said, "The Gleaner has a problem. There has been a postal strike in America, and the airmail packet has not come, and there is no horoscope for tomorrow's edition." And he pointed out that it was impossible to print the Gleaner without the horoscope because no one would buy. And he looked at me gravely and he said, "Tweets, write the horoscope." I said, "My church don't believe in that." But he was relentless and piercing in his insistence, and told me to go outside and look in the sky the horoscope. And it so happened, Father, I think I must confess, that at that time, not with the lady from Alpha, who is present, but all my interests and advances were repelled because she really wanted a tall, dark, and handsome guy from St. Jago. But you see, I knew his birth date, and I knew that he was very superstitious. And so I wrote the horoscope. And I lick him with diseases. Only of my life It didn't help me, but I tell you, it's been a difficult life to get where one is. Tonight, we come to celebrate the excellence of education in Jamaica, and particularly to remember the 271 years of illustrious service to the upliftment of Jamaicans by the combined histories of Beckford and Smith Cathedral High and St. Jago High School in its latest iteration. And our company tonight is comprised not only of us who are here, but there are spirits in this room, the founders and the sustainers of this remarkable institution and others like it over time, who have given of themselves and have established traditions of sustainability, of excellence, and of sacrifice for so many generations in this land. And we should never take them for granted. Our age must remember and must replicate the generosity of Beckford and Smith, of Monroe and Dickinson, of Mannings and Lucy, of Drax, and of all the other benefactors who understood the futility of dying rich and would rather have given their inheritance for the upliftment of those who would bless them for generations. Tonight we remember the role of the Christian churches in the history of Jamaica's secondary education and indeed primary education as well. We recall that even in this modern age, close to 50% of all of the public schools in Jamaica are either sponsored or owned by the Christian churches. And the Anglican Church in which you have your heritage is chief among these, along with the United Church. And it speaks of a spirit of humanism and nationalism that understood from the dawn of the abolition of slavery and even before that education was the only legitimate means of upward mobility in the society. And that no lotto scam, no busing of tune, no divesting half your clothes and seeking fame for the ladies was as reliable a source of upliftment, joy, and achievement as the attainment of a good education. And it is important for one to say this on an occasion like this, because unfortunately, while you are the converted, there are so many young people, and indeed older ones as well, equal in their fecklessness, who do not believe that education is worthwhile, and who squander the opportunity that has been their heritage. When Jamaica became independent 53 years ago, only 15% of the age cohort between grades 7 and 11 had the opportunity of a 5-year secondary education. Despite all of our grumblings and our criticism that nothing now go on, this year 100% of all of our children will have that opportunity. And I believe we celebrate tonight this occasion of wit and poesy and youth, at a time when Jamaica is recognizing that we have to rethink and transform why we do education, how we achieve its objectives. And we have to assert once again its power to change the situation that we would all wish to see improved. Last year I listened to President Obama in the State of the Union address plead with the recalcitrant Republican Congress that money should be provided so that every preschool child should have an opportunity for a kindergarten experience, so that indeed no child will be left behind. But we in Jamaica, in the midst of all our complaining ague, have a place for every child from the early childhood sector now right to the end of the secondary school. In the great nation of China, you are only guaranteed education up to grade 9, you know. If you live in the city and you have money, you can go further. But the norm is grade 9. We are beyond that. Do we recognize on this occasion of happiness that of all the nations in the Americas, North and South, Jamaica contributes from its strengthened budget every year on a per capita basis, proportionately a higher level of its wherewithal than any other country, including the United States and Canada, but with the exception of Cuba. And so, with all of that, let us think carefully for this tremendous bequest that brings you here, that tugs at your heartstrings so that you will come out tonight, make the contributions that are, I gather, solicited incessantly by email, and to see how we are going to achieve that transformation even more thoroughly than is at play at present. In the past, you know, just briefly, we crafted an education system largely drawn from our British heritage. Nothing wrong with that. Most of us are beneficiaries of it. But which certified all of us at Cambridge or London or now by the Caribbean Examinations Council, which prized the pure academics over all other disciplines, and which said to the economies of our time, take these people and elevate them, whether in the affairs of the state, of the church, or of enterprise. And why should you take them? Because we have certified them. Look at them. They have so many CXC or CAPE, or some of us will remember school certificate and higher schools attainments. Nay more, we have said and continue to say, accept these people to be lawyers, teachers, other things, because they have BAs and MAs and some even PhDs. And that is good to a great measure. But I wish to suggest to you tonight, and to challenge the good family of St. Jago, and indeed of St. George's and everywhere else, that we need to look and think whether that is a serviceable model for the 21st century and the needs of the modern economy. Some time ago, I visited the business processing operation in Montego Bay. And I asked with some trepidation the leaders of enterprise there who have invested billions of dollars to set up those companies there. I said to them, what is the quality of the graduates of our schools and of the Hard Trust NTA for your businesses? And I listened to them to tell me that the standard of English wasn't adequate for the call center operation. I wanted to see whether the sometimes childish, immature churlishness of some of our people did not provide a level of customer service that they would find amenable to their trade. And you know, they said no. They said, well, those characteristics are good. But where we really want you to see a deficit is in the digital competence of those who come to seek work with us. And I brindled, you know, Because those persons are coming with level 3 at heart or with grade 1 passes at C-Sec and some with CAPE. And I said, how could you? We have certified them. And then I thought again. And I realized that my thinking was inadequate. And that in fact, perhaps our thinking in the education system, how we craft our philosophical foundation, needs to be expanded. Not jettison the fundamentals of education. No, you can't do that. There is no compromise. All our students from 2017 must have a certification in English and in math, and at least in one marketable skill in order to graduate. No more failures after 12 years of education. Whoever sits in the chair of the Ministry of Education, that is the most temporary job in the whole of the panoply of that system. And then I thought, as I said again, because surely what we now have to do as educators and as educated people is to look at the opportunities for gainful employment, for good citizenship, and to ask again, what are the competencies that are required by the existential situation, rather than by prescribing the existential situation, when it in fact has shifted ground. Now, it seems to me then that this will demand a great deal of generosity of spirit by people like your good principal and all principals, our teachers, and indeed all of us who support education. Because change is always disruptive and abrasive to some extent. And we have got to look and to see the product that is coming into our school and the outcome, the human outcome, that is required in order to have a wholesome life and a productive society. Training, education makes you trainable. Training makes you employable. Employment makes you productive. Productivity makes you prosperous. That's the continuum that I think we need to be on, with a new depth of thought and acuity of vision, and most difficult of all for the education system, flexibility and nimbleness to change. I began by saying we have to look at the product that is coming to us. St. Jago is in an admirable position. Dr. Gordon tells me that all of your students choose St. Jago as their #1 choice. That is admirable and speaks to the pedigree of it. None of your students have any red eye for any other place, because none of them is in a better position than you are in that regard. Even Georgia.
There you go.
But what do we find are the characteristics of the entering student of St. Jago, and indeed of the other nearly 200 high schools in Jamaica? It used to be that one could assume that when you came to high school, that you were socialized by a reasonably coherent family structure, by a community that espoused values like a settled bedtime, like a reasonable meal time, like a modicum of respect and discipline, that these things were givens that could be presumed when you went to somewhere like St. Jago. Can you do so now? I don't think you can. I think we have to recognize that we are in a different era now, and not just wring our hands at it, but do something about it. Yes? We have to deal with who we have. Bright students, but socially deficient. Will you allow me to say that after almost 4 years in the difficult seat at the Ministry of Education, I am convinced that the anemic outcomes that very often plague us are not due to the lack of money alone. Money is very important. Yes, Mr. President, we need you to help those students who would probably find it difficult to be sustained at St. Jago without your alumni's assistance. I will say more on that perhaps. But the real problem is coping with the weak social capital of those students. And it is not to denigrate them or to think of them as being dunce or inadequate. It is to face the reality that 48% of our children in the native serving of living conditions do not know who their father is or have any reasonable relationship with him. It is a fact that many of our students come from situations where they are raising themselves rather than having the bedrock of family structure to deal with. And it is not to spoil the good company tonight to say that there is a fog, a miasma in the society that believes that it is the school that is supposed to, and the state-sponsored school, that is supposed to pick up the entire responsibility for the upbringing of the child under the false rubric of something called free education. Dear friends of St. Jago, do I have to say it here? There is no such thing as free education. It is only a matter of who pays for it. No child must ever, let us establish the principle, no child must ever be excluded from full participation at St. Jago, St. George's, Alpha, or anywhere else on the basis that their parents, the life that they model is of extraordinary persuasiveness to the children who are before them. St. Francis of Assisi told his followers that they should preach always, but use words only when necessary. And in a great sense, it is true of those of us who are engaged in education. Because, Madam Principal, Mr. Townsend, you are correct. Even going to the campus once in a while is of tremendous benefit. Tremendous benefit to those students who will see someone who apparently has succeeded and who has a word of encouragement and kindness of correction to them within the confines of the school. Our parents, then, are of critical importance in the education venture. We know, what makes for an excellent school. It is a visionary leader. That's the first ingredient. And we come to pay tribute to one such tonight. And because we are not advanced in the science of clothing, we have set up the National College of Educational Leadership so that there is particular training in educational leadership now. That is a prerequisite for appointment as a principal going forward. And that is the least we can do. But in addition to visionary leadership, there is a combination between home and school. And men, this is where the importance of the church connection comes, dear friends. Because some of us have to take the spirituality of the sanctuary and invest it in the schools. Our predecessors in the churches understood that. And maybe we won't be able to found new schools as your founders did. But we can certainly go there and be present there, not only for devotions, but in the kind of multiple activities that alumni associations are capable of doing according to the talents and time of their members. This is an absolutely essential ingredient for transformation of education in Jamaica. I place it before you tonight in the hope and challenge that we will be able to move forward in this regard. And lastly, but by no means least, we come to pay tribute to an inspired principal. Someone who has given her life for the upliftment of the children and young people. Many of you, your progeny, who have gone to St. Jago. This is not leaving a school, being a teacher. You cannot be a self-referential person. Generosity of spirit is an absolutely important thing. Not only to put up with the legalism of things, but also to deal with the manifold social and behavioral problems that we have glanced at this evening. And therefore, we need to culture and to recognize the very high vocation of teaching, and to do so not only in terms of pious language, but also in making practical steps towards greater satisfaction and, yes, greater satisfaction comes with more accountability. Our education system is a good plant. We need to nourish it and have it sprout many, many more beautiful roses and flowers than it has in the past. It is our only instance for making a difference. I close with a story. It's a true story, and it may inspire your heart as it has mine. When I became minister, I was confronted by a woman who I have not forgotten. She frequents political rallies of both parties. Rare creature. Not as rare as you think. She had on a red dress, which had seen better days. Hadn't been to the laundry for a long while, and it was ill-fitting. And she had piercing eyes, rocking through your skull to the back of your head when she needed you with them. And she told me, you know, that her business was buying and selling. Pretty normal. But that in recent years there hadn't been any money to do the buying. So she was just doing the selling. But then, that wasn't her big issue. Her big issue was the girl, the daughter, who had gone to a school like St. Jago, gone to a school paid for by the taxpayers of this country, most of whom had never darkened the doors of a high school but contribute so much. And this girl had done well. Now she was in university, but she was about to be deregistered because the fees had not been paid. And she took those piercing eyes and she riveted them in my head and she said, "You run into it, you know, good. You know what, nothing if my daughter had to drop out of school because she's supposed to go to school. Me try with her. We will do. You have to do something." It wasn't me alone. Prime Minister's given me a clear instruction. No one must be denied advancing in education because of failure. Do something, Ronnie. Make it happen. Hard, but we must try. At St. Jago, anywhere, everywhere. So something was done to that girl. And the mother in the red dress would come from time to time over the last few years, you know, and she would say she passing that way. Or she got her field practice or what's up. Or she need one book, you know, run it to herself and buy her that book. No. Some of you have had that experience. And then fast forward to July of this year. At another such occasion, she came and this time she threw herself down in front of me in the red dress and she bowed. And I said, "What kind of tragedy has overtaken now?" And she composed herself and said, "No, I've come to tell you thanks." And 2 weeks later, Dr. Patricia got a card, a simple card out of the pharmacy that said, "Thank you, I've never met this girl again. Thank you, and you people like you." She was talking about. Because without you, I wouldn't be able to be where I am now. And it was sad. Still haven't met her. And then, sometime after that, we had a press conference at the ministry. And I just noticed this stranger, a young black girl, unprepossessing, just there. And she came up when the moment was right. She wasn't looking any notice. And she said, "I've come to hug you. I'm Dr. Kadeen Abohen, intern at the PSA." Her type is at St. Jago. Her type is what you contribute for. Her type was worth Mrs. Swire Watson's years and years of work and that of all the other teachers. Yes? Worth the advocacy of their organization. Worth the effort that each of us can make to do something which resides deeply in our hearts, that the next generation can be stronger and better than ours. That is the work of God. Yes, that's why we can do the rest in this. And tears came to my eyes. So tonight is a time when we dream and aspire, and we give thanks. Thanks for a good life and a strong principle. Thanks for the hope that her example can be infectious at St. Jago all around the country. Thanks for the hope and grace that we can, through education, through generosity of spirit, make life better, and His kingdom will come.
The sweetest and the best part of my day, I will teach I teach how to roll the back of plate, yard, back of pass, roll and everything crisp. The group around the back, pay attention. Yes, miss. Now walk through for clear now. Hurry up now. See me some move like she walk up round your toe. On the back of the yard and pay attention. And me here next week at the math exam. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, at the lunch bell that whenever Miss Lucy have grown dead in the pot. Give me a small lunch, me a beg you save me with the legal tie and the curry gravy. Oh, you mean lunch race? No, what is me can't take. When the lunch money done and me no buy juice yet. It's a lucky thing, friends, me no shatter. Where we give me them back if we go fetch water. School life, it nice, it nice, it nice. All the favorite part of my life. It nice, it nice, it nice. Woo, woo. School life, it nice, it nice, it nice. All the favorite part of my life. It nice, it nice, it nice. Woo, woo. After school, nobody now go home, yeah man. After we no fool, we a find something to but we now broke no rule. Nobody now go through the gate rather find a club than go watch the game. Who now have training, have fire practice, netball, football, dancing and cricket. ISCF, interact, the days and the literary arts. You need to get on, you have to go extra class. Late every day, late detention, cause you don't want the thing give you a suspension. One if a activity, I want as usual, but the best place today, a drama rehearsal. Best place today, a drama rehearsal. The best place, a drama rehearsal. School life, it nice, it nice, it nice. And the favorite part of my life, it nice, it nice, it nice. Woo, woo. School life, it nice, it nice, it nice. And the favorite part of my life, it nice, it nice, it nice. Woo, woo. School life, it nice, it nice, it nice.
Before we begin, I would like to just acknowledge the young people who are here just now. That the young man who was standing on the far left, Xavier, the played boy from last year, he has 19 distinctions as you see him standing here. 10 ones from C7, 9 from K. So, and the other young man has 9 C6 distinctions from last year, he got 9 ones last year. And the other girl was over here with the microphone. That was last year, head girl with her fair share of ones as well. So they're not, just students around the school. These are some of our scholars in our school that are doing this thing here. Mr. Master of Ceremony, Minister of Education, other special guests, brothers and sisters of St. Jago High, other friends, good evening. I rise with humility to give the principal's report as she has bigger things to come later on, and she didn't want to be up here too often. So I'm going to do her report for her this year. We had another great year under the theme, Shaping Lives for Excellence and Greatness since 1744. Our external examination performance saw us achieving an overall pass rate of 96% at Cape, at sixth form. At Unit 1, 6B or lower 6, 11 of 22 subjects earned 100% passes, while 9 earned over 89%, and only 2 earned just over 50%. The best performer for Unit 1 was Johnny Johnson, a member of the girls' track and field team, with 3 grade 1s and 1 grade 2. At Unit 2, Upper 6, 6A, 12 of the 20 subjects earned 100% passes, while the other 8 earned over 90% passes, and no subject at Unit 2 was on a 90% pass. The best performer was Dana Lee Hammond, a deputy head girl. She got 4 grade 1s and a grade 2. Among the other good performers was Lando Graham, a member of the boys track and field team. He earned 4 grade 1s and a grade 3 and was the winner of the high-profile stock exchange game for high schools. His teammate was also second in the same game. So Jago was number 1 and number 2 in the stock exchange games. 3 of our students placed in the top 10 in the Caribbean. Jordana Richards came first in tourism Unit 1, which we were doing for the first time. So she came first in the entire Caribbean. No immaculate champion or no school from Trinidad or Barbados got the better of her. Marshall Banquet came first and Lando Graham came third in management of business as well in Unit 2. So we did exceedingly well in management of business. At CSEC, or fifth form level, ordinary level, we had an overall pass rate of 90%. Of the 29 subjects, 8 had 100% passes, 11 had over 90% passes, 9 had over 80% passes, and 2 had over 70% passes. We continued to struggle with additional mathematics, of course, and visual arts with less than 50% passes. The best performers were Kadia Morris and Chanel Corey with 10 1s. And as I mentioned, Javon Keys, the young man in the yellow shirt, he got 9 1s. He's a top performing boy, 9 1s and a grade 2. The number of students who got 1s. We had 2 students getting 10 1s, 2 getting 9 1s, 5 getting 8 1s, and 6 getting 7 1s. Of course, we won't bother mention the others, but we had quite a number of brilliant performances below 7 1s as well. Points to note, English language. I'm sure everybody want to hear what we did in English language. Our pass rate was 86%, with 50% of the 224 students receiving grade 1s. More interestingly, mathematics. We had a 92% pass, 95% pass at mathematics, with 56% of the students getting grade 1s. What you can call a star performer though was POB, Principles of Business. We sent up 156 students, all of them passed, all 100%, well, 100% pass, and 78% of them got 1s. As you know, there was a fall in the pass rate for sciences this year across the Caribbean, and so St. Jago was also suffered a little bit in chemistry, physics, and biology. Not significantly, dropped from 83-84% down to about 78% pass. But we saw that it affected, the students' performance overall in the sciences. Problematic subjects come to be additional mathematics and visual arts, as we mentioned earlier. And we ask if any past students who are experts in this area, you could assist us, we'd greatly appreciate it. Overall, for CSEC passes, we had one student getting 11 subjects, 46 getting 10 subjects, 40 getting 9, 42 getting 8, 39 getting 7 subjects, 48 getting 6, and 25 getting 5 subjects.
There's no place I'd